So let's talk about Galton boards. Actually, I'll do most of the talking here. You've probably seen a Galton board at a museum somewhere. A ball starts at the top, bounces down randomly left and right, lands in a bin at the bottom. This happens over and over again, and the balls form a nice bell-shaped curve. Here's a simulation of a kind of Galton board written by UMass Lowell undergraduate Jared Peralt. You'll notice that it is not forming a bell-shaped curve at the bottom, and that's because this is not your standard Galton board. This is a new kind of Galton board in simulation, one that doesn't exist yet physically, but soon will, thanks to you, I hope. This is a programmable Galton board, and it's the brainchild of the original leadership team of MoMath, Glenn Whitney, Cindy Lawrence, and George Hart. And they envision an exhibit called Draw Your Own Conclusions, in which visitors to the museum will draw some sort of probability distribution, and then software and hardware will adjust the biases at the junctions where the balls are falling, so that as time passes, the balls will form a distribution approximating what the user sketched. So if you look at the very top, some numbers are about to appear. And the top number is 0.6. That means that that junction is going to send balls to the left about 0.6 of the time. 6/10 of the time, the ball should go to the left. And at the bottom, the balls land in bins, and the distribution is indicated by the heights of those histogram bars. As time passes, the distribution of the balls will look more and more like this. And if you're wondering where this distribution came from, let me show you something that will make it look a little less arbitrary. Okay. So the challenge posed to me by Glenn Whitney was to find some algorithm for determining what the biases at those junctions should be so that over time, the distribution of the balls will approximate the user-specified distribution. So it turns out you have more than enough freedom given all those different junctions and their biases to play with. So the question becomes not is there a way to do it, but what's the best way to do it? And here, best can be defined as cheapest to manufacture and maintain. So we would like to make sure that the wear and tear on the different parts, the different junctions, is equalized throughout the system. So we might ask that all the junctions should get hit by balls equally often. Unfortunately, you can't ensure this because users could always specify some really lopsided distribution where the balls are always going towards the left side. So there's no way that you can ensure that all the junctions will get hit equally often. But you could ask for something a little more modest. Given any particular bin at the bottom, you could ask that the balls that follow, the balls that end up in that bin should follow all the different possible paths from the top of the apparatus to that particular bin equally often in the long run. Call this the equiprobable paths property. It turns out that there's one and only one way to do it under that constraint. That is, given any user-specified distribution for the bins, there's one and only way to put biases at the junctions so that the balls will land in that specified distribution and so that the equiprobable paths property is satisfied. So the problem is, I haven't told you the real problem with the design of this exhibit, which is that the estimated price tag for this programmable Galton board is either $500,000 or $500,000, whichever sounds more affordable to you. And when I say you, I mean those of you in the audience who make many millions of dollars a year. If you are not one of those people, you can stop listening for the next little bit of the talk and instead look around the room and see if you can spot the people who are trying to avoid eye contact with me right now. And if you are one of those mega rich people, please take a few minutes away from your little hobby of trying to figure out how to reverse global warming or whatever, and write a check for $500,000 to MoMath with the subject line, the memo line, draw your own conclusions exhibit. Because the programmable Galton board wants to come into existence as a physical object. All it needs is for someone to pay for its ticket into our reality. Now, I think I see a Confederate in the audience with a prearranged question. Yes, what is your question, sir?
Jim, have you considered extending this to 3 dimensions somehow?
Have I considered extending to higher dimensions? The perfect question for every mathematical seminar to make it sound like you've been paying attention to the lecture. In fact, I have designed a 3-dimensional programmable Galton board, which will have a junction at the top, more and more junctions as you go down, and a whole 2-dimensional array of bins at the bottom. The bins correspond to pixels in some photograph, in this case, a 3x3 photograph of the number 11. And the luminosities of the pixels correspond to the desired occupancy level of the bins. So can we set the biases at the junctions so that the balls, as they fall to the bottom, will reproduce in that tray at the bottom the desired photograph? The answer is yes. The price tag is a bit higher, probably about $1 billion instead of $500,000, but the mathematics is the same. So let me show you what the algorithm looks like, or part of the algorithm, actually run in reverse, for a 200 by 200 photograph.
As you wrap up, James.
Yeah. Shout out when you think you know who this is. It's not Martin Gardner, though you can see a little bit of Martin's sleeve in the lower right corner. It's not John Conway either. You. Not me. It's Tom Rogers, the man whose vision, logistical support, and financial generosity made it possible for Gathering for Gardner to become a reality and for all of you to be here today. So to conclude, the idea for the 2-dimensional programmable Galton board is MoMath's, the algorithm is mine, the simulation is my students', and the choice is yours. Do you want to live in a world that has room for beautiful, useless things like programmable Galton boards? Of course you do. And I'm not asking for $1 billion here, just a measly $500,000. So please, give what you can afford. Convince your friends to give more than they can afford. Dump your newly impoverished, no longer as much fun friends. Find some new, richer friends and convince them to give. Or, if you will follow the example of this man and give the whole amount, the whole $500,000, I will gladly perform the same mathematical operations on your face. Thank you.